Alibaba founder Jack Ma's career has been anything but ordinary, and you only need to watch these 4 clips to understand why. Here he is in his apartment in 1999, pitching Alibaba to his co-founders.
我们所有的竞争对手不在于中国，而在于美国的硅谷。我们在座的所有的人的脑袋绝不比任何人长。这就是我们敢跟美国人斗的东西，我们绝对敢斗。
Fast forward a decade and a half, and Jack Ma leads one of the world's largest internet companies and is widely considered China's most famous businessman.
We have more than 10, 20 million small business using our platform. And 60% of them, this business, never exist before Alibaba.
Jump to 2021 and his story takes a dramatic turn.
Nobody is ruling out the possibility that Jack Ma could either be on the run or that perhaps he has been detained.
And just when the world thought he had stepped away from the public eye for good,
Chinese President Xi meeting with some of the biggest names in the country's tech sector, including Alibaba's co-founder Jack Ma.
Jack Ma's journey spans over 25 years, from early triumphs to sudden silence and a surprising return.
Some call it Jack Magic, that he was able to get people to rally to him, even though he didn't come from wealth or power or tech. He was basically just a guy who had a dream and the ability to mobilize a team.
The hallmark of Jack and his personality is that he never gave up.
His ambition, I think, is his rocket fuel. But like Icarus, you start to think that he flew too close to the sun.
I'm Arjun Kharpal, and I've covered tech for more than a decade, with 3 of those years in China, reporting on the country's most fascinating giants. One of those is Alibaba, and over the course of this episode, I'll explore the company's most famous character, founder Jack Ma. Jack Ma's journey is a quintessential rags to riches tale. Born in 1964 to a modest family, his early life offered few hints of the global titan he would become. Ma came to age just as China began to open its doors to the world, sparking teenage Ma's fascination with the West.
Our 2 peoples tonight hold the future of the world in our hands.
He grew up in Hangzhou. He actually learned his English on the street. He would go up to foreign tourists and ask to show them his town for free so he could practice his English.
Jack Ma faced repeated rejection early on. He failed China's college entrance exams twice before eventually being admitted to university and earning a degree in English.
When he graduated from university, he also applied to at least 14 different jobs and was rejected. There are a number of other instances in which he tried to do things where he encountered resistance.
In 1994, Ma launched one of China's first translation agencies. Just a year later, his English proficiency earned him a ticket to the United States, where he worked as a translator for a government project. It was during this visit that he encountered the internet, a discovery that changed his life. He realized that platforms lacked information about China, and that got him thinking.
我们在启动一场技术革命，观念革命，
Jack Ma was early to discover the internet, but he was a bit late to get the right kind of company for him as a vehicle. He created a company that had a lot of competition, this Yellow Pages company, that the local government actually kind of quashed. His early experience as an internet entrepreneur was tough, but he came back strong with Alibaba in 1999.
Jack Ma co-founded Alibaba with 17 other people, a diverse mix of former colleagues, university friends, students, and entrepreneurs from across various industries.
I first met him just after he'd founded the company, so I went to the small apartment, and you would walk in, you could see all the shoes of all the founders outside. You could tell that they were working around the clock. Maybe half of those people had already worked with Jack in earlier companies. So the people around Jack Ma are almost like disciples. And because he's not a tech guy, he's had to bring in smart people.
Alibaba raised $25 million in venture seed capital from Goldman Sachs and SoftBank, whose founder Masayoshi Son invested $20 million alone.
I joined the company around the time that the Goldman Sachs investment happened, and it was before the SoftBank investment, which was a few months later. And then when Masa invested $20 million into Alibaba, someone who had already had a meaningful track record in investing in companies like Yahoo, I think that added extra enthusiasm to us as a team.
Another game-changing investment came in 2005 when Yahoo acquired a 40% stake in Alibaba for $1 billion.
What's important to understand that there's a triangular relationship between Jack Ma, Jerry Yang, the founder of Yahoo, and Masayoshi Son. So Masayoshi Son of SoftBank basically made Yahoo a global success by a big investment early on in Japan. So without Masayoshi Son, these three gentlemen wouldn't have come together. But at the time, Jerry Yang was criticized actually for handing over the keys of Yahoo China to Alibaba. People thought this was a mistake, but it turned out to be an extremely savvy investment.
Under Jack Ma's leadership, Alibaba overcame early hurdles and rapidly expanded, transforming it from a scrappy startup to a formidable force in global tech.
Alibaba really grew as a result of what were the perceived needs in the market. China had entered the WTO a few years after we started Alibaba, and suddenly there was this need to facilitate global trade. Taobao and Tmall really fulfilled what was a growing consumer demand for products. By creating Alipay, they actually pioneered this whole financial inclusion and digital payments. Beyond that, there were a number of other areas that Alibaba started to go into. One of them was media entertainment, another one was health. So Alibaba became an ecosystem.
Amazon is more like an empire. Everything they should control themselves, buy and sell. And our philosophy is that we think using internet technology, we can make every company become Amazon.
In 2014, Alibaba's record-breaking public debut catapulted Ma onto the world stage.
Alibaba came into the New York Stock Exchange with this very large IPO, the biggest in history. And a lot of people suddenly started paying attention to who is Jack Ma.
So I'm 50 years old, my job is making money.
Jack Ma at this point became fated a regular speaker at Davos. So we'd have the situation when presidents or prime ministers or princes and princesses would come to Hangzhou to meet Jack Ma.
Probably fair to say there's no more high-profile entrepreneur who has U.S. exposure than him to the Chinese.
We had a great meeting and a great entrepreneur, one of the best in the world, and he loves this country and he loves China.
I do China and Latin America.
This started to show actually some danger for the company, that Jack Ma himself was perhaps getting a little bit too much attention. And at the same time, so from 2013, we saw the arrival of Xi Jinping as president of China and head of the Communist Party. Under Xi Jinping, we started to see more tensions, partly because of the sheer size of companies like Alibaba, particularly where they started moving from e-commerce into areas like finance.
Jack Ma stepped down as CEO of Alibaba in 2013, but remained chairman until 2019 when he formally ended his leadership position at the company. The departure was framed as a move to focus on other ventures, including Ant Group, the owner of Alipay, one of the world's largest digital payments platforms. Ma was deeply involved with preparing Ant's IPO, which in 2020 was projected to raise a staggering $35 billion. That would have made it the world's biggest. And because Jack Ma controlled over half of Ant's shares, it would have made him an even wealthier man too. But the IPO never happened.
I want to share some very big news that has been developing this morning out of China.
The Shanghai stock market just tonight had said that it is delaying the IPO.
I'd arrived in Shanghai 2 days before the IPO to report on it for CNBC. I hadn't even checked into my hotel yet, and my phone was blowing up with messages about the cancelled IPO. We were trying to work out what had happened.
Jack Ma gave a pretty hard-hitting speech in Shanghai at something called the Bund Financial Summit in October 2020. He's been somewhat critical of regulation, but he said it in a very forceful way, directly to regulators and former regulators.
What happened during the Ant situation is that this company had really pioneered not just digital payments, but also microloans, which were being given not just to urban consumers, but also to rural farmers. I think that there was a concern about enabling borrowing at that scale without the traditional collateralized system that would ensure that the risks were mitigated.
And it went straight, we understand, to Xi Jinping, who basically canceled the IPO.
Jack Ma has been noticeably silent after his high-profile critical rebuke of Chinese regulators back in October.
It was a clear deplatforming, let's say, of Jack Ma.
I think everyone was struggling with how do you control the power and influence that big tech companies have in a marketplace. My interpretation of how Jack addressed this was really to get out of the way and allow the leadership that he had appointed to step up and make the decisions required.
Jack Ma has occasionally reappeared to criticize Alibaba, actually. For example, when we saw the growth of Pinduoduo or PDD, Jack Ma actually posted, "Congratulations, you're doing a great job. Alibaba is falling behind." So that was a direct criticism of the management of the company. He's always alive to the risk that they can lose their secret sauce.
Falling behind in the AI race was the final straw for Jack Ma. Reports say it spurred him to push forward a major strategic shift from behind the scenes, including the appointment of current CEO Eddie Wu.
One thing we've seen recently with Eddie, who's been taking over the reins of Alibaba the last year or so, people sense, oh, this is Jack Ma behind the scenes.
In February 2025, Jack Ma made a very public, high-profile reappearance at a meeting with Chinese government officials, including President Xi.
That was coming out of the cold for him, but it does not mean that he's got a platform and he can express himself freely. But one does speculate for the future. He's in his early 60s now, but he's still pretty vibrant. He has homes and yachts and all that stuff, but one senses that he's not done yet. At least the government now recognizes the symbolic role that he played in the world, but also within China. To some extent, the Jack Ma story is an American story made in China. So I think it basically established that innovation is not the monopoly of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, we can afford to.
Jack is one of the key founders of the company, and you'll never truly disappear from a company that you created, particularly when so many of your co-founders remain in the business.